Hello, friends. Welcome back to Great Topics program. Hope you all are doing great. Yes, Insight Fellowship Program in Advanced Analytical Problem Solving Expertise, APEX. And we are almost on the verge of ending with our Six Sigma Brain Build. Yes, we are in a control phase. We have successfully completed first four phases: define, measure, analyze, improve, and we are in the control phase right now. So I'm Santosh Nyaneshwar Osarkar. And before we proceed, I would like to make one small announcement over here that, I'm sure all last few videos you have just gone through certain systems, like chi-square test and for that matter, 2P test. You're going to go through control chart right now. Then we're also going to share the lean transformations tool with you. And then we're also going to share process optimization system, which are kind of a spreadsheet based software systems, that lean transformation and process optimization systems. So all these systems, all these tools, an automatic tool which we built, I guess I need to mention this. This is my moral responsibility to mention this, that these tools are designed and developed by me and one of my friend. Her name is Chaitrali Dilip Dhumde. Both of us build it together. So it's not only my credit, it's her credit as well, and I have to uh, give her due credit which she deserves actually. A wonderful, wonderful human being and brilliant person, to be very honest. So I'm really thankful towards her. So on that particular note, let's proceed to our next slide. We need to recap our DMAC methodology. So very next slide, please. Right, so this is a recapping session, what we covered over last few videos. So we started with define phase. In define phase, we listed down probable problems, then we prioritize the problems with the help of tools like operational lever diagnostics or i.e.we, or for that matter, both of them. Now we got a list of potential and prioritized problems, and simultaneously or one after another, we can take those problems and deploy problem reduction process, and we can deploy. For that sake, we can reduce the problem with the help of problem solving methodology called DMAC, and that's where we are in the first step of DMAC, or rather for that matter, in the first step or first phase of the DMAC, that is prioritizing the problem. Once we prioritize the problem, very next thing is we got to quantify it and set the improvement goal, which we are going to do it, and then we are going to document it with the help of project charter. This is the project charter. Now we have defined what is the problem. Now we need to check out where the given problem is actually located in a process. So that's where high-level process map help us. So these are two things we are going to take care of in a defined phase. And once that is done, in a major phase, we are going to start with defining how are we going to measure the problem. So we are attaching, or we are bringing measurable characteristics to that of problem, and we're going to use performance standard document for that, right? So we're going to have targets, specification limits, and defectives, and all those stuff. And I kept on telling you, this is perhaps the most important document, because everything evolves, or for that matter, everything revolves around this particular document. So we talked about that. Then post that, as we all know, there's an equation called y is equal to fx. If we really want to reduce the problem, we have to find out the causes behind the problem, and we want to reduce it. So in that particular equation, right now, in a very next step of major phase, we're going to take care of a second aspect or second part of the equation, that is fx, or in other words, causes. So all we're going to do is we're going to list down the probable causes that are leading to the problem or influencing to the problem with the help of field bone data. Once that is done, then we are going to select critical causes. So we are going to select critical causes out of these probable causes with the help of CI matrix. So highly controllable, highly severe, and highly frequent causes are critical causes. And once that is done, that's where we have measured the criticality of the causes. That's the second part of the equation. Now let's get back to the first part of the equation, that is why, that is our problem. So how to measure the criticality of the problem? How deep is the problem? You want to find it out, we're going to use the capability analysis, and that's what we did. So in measure phase, we are attaching measurable characteristics to the problem A. B, we're going to measure the criticality of the causes, and C, we're going to measure how critical, or for that matter, we're going to measure the criticality of the problem. That's what we're going to do in the measure phase. Now in analyze phase, all we're going to do is we are going to prioritize critical causes further with the help of statistical foundation. So the causes which are, we started with the probable causes, and then we prioritize to the critical causes in the major phase. Now those critical causes we need to further prioritize based on statistical foundation. In other words, we'll call it, we are now going to segregate the statistically significant causes from the list of critical causes, which we got it through CI matrix. So how are we going to find out statistically significant causes? With the help of statistical test. So we have just gone through chi-square test and goodness of fit test, that graphical analysis thing, right? And now when we found the statistically significant causes, in other words, few statistically significant causes from the critical many causes, we need to find the solutions for those few statistically significant causes. All it indicates is, so we have the list of say 20-25 different probable causes. These 3 or 4 whatever statistically significant causes we somehow found or segregated through statistical analysis. All it indicates is these 3 or 4 causes out of those 20 or 25 causes will have maximum impact on a Y. So if we could work on these causes, if we could curb or if we could fix these causes with appropriate solutions, it will improve the performance of our Y. And that is why we are using statistical foundation in analyze phase. And that's the beauty and that's the power of Six Sigma as a analytical problem solving tool set. So let's go, let's continue with the improve phase. In improve phase, we try to find out, probable solutions, and then we convert it into potential solutions by exercising solution refining refinement activity, where we're going to have 4 scanners, and every single probable solution will go through these 4 scanners. And what are those 4 scanners? How impactable the given solution is, A. B, how cost effective the given solution is. C, is it feasible to implement that given solution? And 4, can we get clients, or for that matter, senior management consent to deploy this given solution? Based on this, we will rate each and every solution. We'll have solution refinement or solution prioritization index, and higher the solution prioritization index, higher the chances that given solution will get implemented in an improve phase. So now here we got refined solutions, and now we need to implement it. So we'll come up with a solution implementation plan, right? And we will implement this solution on, we will implement these solutions on experimental basis, that is for a short-term basis. So we have certain hesitance that we are not sure whether these solutions are going to work, because these solutions we got it through the opinion of the participants in that brainstorming session, right? So we need to prove whether these given solutions are actually impacting the Y or not. And for that sake, we are going to experiment solution implementation for a shorter period of time. So we're going to implement it, and then we are going to collect the data for a Y here, right? So project Y data, and then we're going to compare the project Y of improve phase with that of measure phase. So measure phase is pre-improvement phase, and improve phase is post-improvement phase, right? So we're going to compare it, and we're going to statistically prove that yes, after implementing the given solutions or given refined solutions, this is what the performance of Y had significantly improved, and that is being shown or validated by 2P test. Once that is done, we are right now um, we are open to scale up that solutions for longer period of time or for ongoing purpose, for day-to-day implementation, for regular basis implementation of those solutions. But prior to that, all we need to do is we need to do a couple of things in improve phase. One is the way we validated solution implementation, or for that matter, the way we validated improvement with the help of 2P test. We also need to check whether the performance of Y has improved or not with the help of capability assessment, the capability analysis. So we carried out capability analysis in the measure phase. Likewise, we're also going to carry out the capability analysis for improve phase data. And that is the thing which will help us confirm that yes, performance of Y has improved because sigma value has also improved. So that's what we're going to do. So that's the confirmation of improvement. Once that is done, then we are going to update our process map so that in future, who's ever going to implement that, or who's ever going to execute that process, they will execute it with these solutions. So we are going to modify the process map with the solutions which help us to improve the performance of the Y. So that's what we're going to modify the process map with, right? So that's about modification of the process map. Once we are done with this, we are done with the improve phase, and then we'll enter into the control phase. So in improve phase, we have executed the solution. So executed the solutions, but before executing those solutions, we were quite hesitant whether these solutions are going to work or not, and that is why we experimented solution implementation for a shorter period of time. Now, with the validation and confirmation of improvement, we're going to scale it up. It means we are going to hand over those solutions to the operations team, and we are going to provide them a guiding document so that they can implement the things on their own. So till improve phase, your role as a green belt were like a driving seat role. So you were on a driving seat to ensure that improvement is occurring over there. But once you have validated the improvement, now it will be the responsibility of the operations team to scale it up. In other words, to use these solutions on day-to-day basis. So you will just hand over the guiding document to them, how to implement the solutions, what are different probable challenges going to come, to implement it, how to tackle those things. So all these things will be covered into control plan, and control plan do have monitoring plan, which monitor Y and a significant excess which we found in a analyze phase, and response plans talks about the solutions. So likewise, we are going to have a control plan which comprises monitoring plan and response plan. With the help of these two documents, we are going to monitor Y and X, and will ensure that solutions are properly implemented in the operations, right? So that operations means production. So we do normally call it operations, right? So day-to-day operations means day-to-day productions. For that matter, if it is a development, it's a day-to-day development activities, right? So do take it that way. So that's about implementation of the control plan. Once that is done, the very next thing is we need to go ahead and collect the data of project Y, in control phase. The way we collected in measure phase, the way we collected it in improve phase, we are also going to collect it in a control phase. Why? Because we still need to validate that yes, for a shorter period of time at experimental level in improve phase, we have seen certain improvement. But when we are going to implement it for a longer period of time, when you're going to implement it on a day in, day out basis, if improvement is sustained for longer period of time. To validate that, to confirm that, we need to collect certain data. So that is what a data collection phase. So we're going to collect data in a control phase. And post that, there's a beautiful tool called control chart. We're going to use it to see whether the performance of the project is stable or under control or not. So all these things we're going to look into. So let's go to next slide to further understand it. I hope you're not getting bored with this, recapping thing. I already explained why we are revising it. I'm sure and I believe this will help you solidify your understanding of this analytical problem solving skill set. So on that note, let's go to next slide. Thank you. Right, control phase, step 5.2. It is control phase data collection and statistical process control, SPC. SPC controls variation in performance of project Y by monitoring and maintaining it under statistically defined control limits. So let's go and check it out what we do have in statistical process control. Let's go to the next slide, please. Right. So statistical process control monitor project Y over the period of time. SPC, which is statistical process control, is an early warning system if the project Y is out of the control. So over the period of time, if you find that at any given time the process Y is out of the control or is behaving abnormally, if we could detect that abnormal behavior earlier, that will be better. We can fix that abnormal behavior right at that moment and avoid it creating a big havoc, or avoid it creating a big problem for the process, and thus we can stabilize the process. If we will fix it bit later, that can really harm the process. So to avoid that, we have to have certain system that can detect that abnormality in earlier stage or as early as feasible, and that's what SPC helps us to find out. To give an example from the day-to-day life, cancer, right? We talked about cancer. If you could detect cancer little earlier, in earlier stages, the percentage of survival is relatively higher than detecting, later stages. So same thing applies to process and process behavior, right? And stability of the process. So if you really want process to be stable, we have to detect that abnormality earlier. See, abnormality is not something that we can stop completely. Variation is going to be there. It's a part and parcel of the game because human beings are working together. So there will be variation in performances. But detecting abnormality caused due to variation, as early as feasible is the key over here. And that's the philosophy of SPC. So SPC detect unusualness or abnormality in process behavior over the period of time. If performance of the project Y is out of control, we need to check whether it is by chance, just randomly happened, or there is certain reason behind it. If there is certain reason behind it, we need to investigate it further and fix it right at that moment. Right. So on that note, let's go to next slide, please. We exercise statistical process control with the help of control chart. So control chart is a tool of statistical process control. It's kind of a graph, right? So you could see this is how the control chart will look. Control charts were developed by Walter Shewhart in 1920s, almost a century back. Control charts plot data of Y over the period of time in order to detect trends and or unusual events. So that's what we use the control charts for. It helps us to find out unusual events as early as feasible. So that's kind of an early warning system. Control chart is like line charts, but with the addition of control limit lines, like upper control limit and lower control limits, and an average line that is a center line. So you could see a center line over here, upper control limit is here, and lower control limit is here. Let's go to next slide to understand a bit more about control chart. Next slide, please. Right, so control limits are typically set at approximately 3 standard deviations from the center line. So standard deviation, as we all know, it's a metric or indicator of variation, and variation is something we are trying to curb or reduce with the help of Six Sigma methodologies. So control limits are not specification limits set by the clients. Control limits are internal measures where, based on the performance of the process, we do get the average of the performance, and then average, that is center line, plus 3 standard deviation will give us upper control limit. I'm sorry, and average minus 3 standard deviation will give us lower control limits. So this is how upper control limits and lower control limits get set. Next point, yes, as we already talked about it, specification limits do not appear on control charts because upper control limits or lower control limits are not specification limits. Specification limit might be beyond upper or low control limits, or in a few of the occasions where specification limits might be within control limits too. That's totally depends on how your process is performing. It's ideal that specification limits are beyond control limits, because if your performance will get set within control limit, in the case where specification limits are larger than control limits, your performance of the overall process is going to be quite stable over the period of time. So on that particular note, to just let me now, summarize, specification limits do not appear on a control charts. It's only control limits. And control limits are not specification limits. Many of us do make that mistake, or do have that confusion that control limits are specification limits. No, those are not. Ideally, specification limits supposed to be larger than a control limits. So on that note, let's go ahead. Right here, we could see SPC graphical output. As we already have seen, this is a typical SPC or control chart will look just like a ECG, isn't it? And we do have upper control limit, we do have low control limit, we do have a central line over here. And importantly, we can see one the data point, which is in a line for that matter, which goes beyond beyond the upper control limit, that is get indicated with weight. So in other words, anything beyond control limits is into unacceptable zone, right? Either upper control, beyond upper control limit, or beyond the low control limits. So that's an unacceptable zone, and we need to investigate why given point or why given data point is lying or located or goes beyond the control limits. So is it by chance, or is it because of a special cause? If it is because of a special cause, go ahead and fix that special cause right at that moment, so that it shouldn't be affecting the process again, and that will ensure stability of the process, and that's what we are looking out for. So we need to ensure that we are fixing the problem or issues or challenge associated with the data point which is lying beyond the control limits. That's in an unacceptable zone. So that's about the graphical output. Let's go to next slide, please. Control chart roadmap. Let's go through the roadmap of the control chart. Next slide, please. Right, so whenever you want to plot a graph or control chart of a proportion of defectives, that is number of defective units in a sample divided by total number of units collected in a sample, we will use P chart. So do remember, we are going to use P chart for our Six Sigma project deployment. Whenever we want to plot a control chart for Six Sigma project deployments, we're going to use P chart in case of our problem solving exercises. So let's go to next slide and understand why are we going to use a P chart, right? So we are talking about P chart. We use P chart when we want to plot a proportion of defectives, right? That is number of defective units in a sample divided by total number of units collected in a sample. And what is our project Y? In our current case, the project Y is PT non-compliance, right? So in that case, number of defective shifts in a week. Now, defective shifts are those shifts where average processing time is beyond 270 seconds per unit, right? So number of defective shifts in a week divided by total number of shifts in a week as one data point of each week, right? So this is how we're going to calculate. So this is a proportion of number of defective shifts to the total number of shifts in a given week. So for each and every week, we're going to have one data point, right? So do remember that. And we're going to use a P chart, So let's plot a control chart for proportion, that is P chart for PT non-compliance. Let's go to the next slide. Right. Yes, my friends with the statistical backgrounds will ask me this question: why P chart and not NP chart? Why not NP chart? So let me give some briefing over here. Now, total number of shifts per week are constant, right? That is 6 working days into 3 shifts, 18 shifts. So most weeks, 18 shifts a week as such. So logically, we should plot a control chart with a constant sample size, that is NP chart. When your sample size is constant, that is total number of shifts in a week, right? That is constant. You supposed to plot the NP chart. Yes, I do agree with that. However, as we already discussed in one of the video, that there is a possibility of national holiday or any festive season in a given week, and hence there is a possibility of a day off, the shutdown. I mean, the whole office is shut down, whole manufacturing plant is shut down because of that holiday, right? So sample size will not always be same, that is of 18 shifts. There is a possibility there will be only 15 shifts because one day in that given week is off, right? Nobody works on a given day, right? So it will be only 15 shifts week instead of 18 shifts weeks. So there is a variation, and there is a possible variation, to be very honest, right? So it makes sense to plot a graph of non-constant sample size than constant sample size. So instead of NP chart, we will plot a P chart for sake of standardization. Now, is it going to affect our inferences? Certainly not. Why? Because both are a plot of proportions. One is with constant denominator for each sample. NP chart will have constant denominator at the bottom, and other, that is P chart, is with non-constant denominator of each sample. So that's what a difference. Let's not get into the nitty-gritties of this. This particular slide is certainly for those people who do have a statistical background. They may come up with this question: why are we using P chart and not NP chart? But I think this is the logic which I would like to put forward, and I guess every one of us would agree with this, right? So as long as it is not affecting our final inference, and there is no difference between inference which we may draw either from the NP chart and P chart. So only difference will be the data points. In one of the plot, that is NP chart, will have to give an example. So if it is number of defective shifts divided by total number of shifts in a given week, in a P chart, sorry, in an NP chart, we will plot number of, we'll plot the graph or control chart of number of defective shifts. And in a P chart, we'll plot a graph of number of defective shifts divided by total number of shifts. That's the only difference. However, the total trend of the graph and the look of the graph will be almost the same, right? So to sum up, please do remember we are going to plot a P chart. That's it, as simple as that. So let's go ahead and check it out further. So control phase data collection. So process manager is supposed to share the data of project Y for next 6 to 7 weeks. We are in a control phase, right? We have handed over the documents like control plan, and then project details and cause log and solution log and other related documents to operations manager, and he or she supposed to ensure that they will deploy the solutions henceforth for ongoing purpose, right? Now, while they are deploying the solutions for for ongoing purpose, every single week, or for that matter, for next 6 to 7 weeks, they need to share these details with you as a green belt. What information they need to share with you? They need to share with you two things. One is, of course, total number of non-defective shifts in that given week, and second aspect, that is denominator aspect, total number of shifts in a given week. There's two information needed, and every single week for next 6 to 7 weeks, operations manager is supposed to share these details with you as a Six Sigma green belt, right? All you're going to do is you're going to get those details and you're going to plot a P chart, right? So let me repeat that point again. Process manager or operations manager supposed to share the data of project Y for next 6 to 7 weeks, the data of number of non-complying or shifts and total number of shifts, right? That's the data we are looking out for. With Greenbelt project leader, each week will have approximately 18 shifts if process is working in shifts in 3 shifts per day. But again, as we already talked on a previous slide, it's not always the same number of shifts in every single week. Had we have any holidays in between, and had we have any shutdowns, so across the shifts because of some holidays or because of some festive seasons, we're not going to work on a given day, or for that matter, given 2 or 3 days, then total number of shifts will not remain the same every single week, right? For that given week, when we have a holiday, certainly we're going to have a lesser number of shifts, right? So green belt project leader need to plot a control chart for 6 to 7 weeks data of project Y. In case of current case study, process manager or operations manager shared control phase data of average processing time for each shift for next 6 to 7 weeks with Greenbelt. Greenbelt converted average processing time per shift into processing time compliance. C. If average processing time for a given week is less than 270 seconds, it becomes C. And if it is more than 270 seconds, unfortunately, it's going to be NC, right? So that's how either Greenbelt will do it, or even process manager can do that normal calculations and pass it on to the Greenbelt. There will be 6 to 7 data points, one for each week. Why 6 to 7 data points? Because we asked for 6 to 7 weeks data, and for each week there will be 1 point. Each data point is a proportion of number of non-compliance shifts in that week divided by total number of shifts in the same week. So that's what, and that's how we're going to collect the data, for control phase. So let's go to next slide, please. Let me repeat the last point over here again. This is the most important aspect of plotting the P chart. There will be 6 to 7 data points, one for each week. Each data point is a proportion of number of non-compliance shifts in that week divided by total number of shifts in the same week. So we're going to get 6 to 7 different proportions, and we're going to plot those proportions in P chart. So I guess on that particular note, let's stop with this video right here. We will continue with how to plot the P chart with the help of statistical tool which we have developed. We're going to look into that tool, and we'll look into the procedure of plotting the P chart in very next video. So on that note, let's go to next slide. Yeah. So I would like to thank you all for being around and get associated with this particular video. I hope you are liking what we are doing over here. Please help us to reach out to your friends, family, relatives, and neighbors, and let them know about the Breath of X program, about the importance of advanced analytical problem solving skill sets for better employment and, for that matter, growth in a career, right? Because this is for everyone. So let everyone to get benefited out of this. So on this particular note, Uttishya Bharata, Ma Bharati shall rise again in her full glory. So before we end, let's thank technology companies for their support, and assistance. We deeply appreciate following technology companies for their technological support. Meanwhile, requesting you all to please like the video, share it with your friends, family, relatives, and neighbors, and within your network. And if you are not subscribed yet, please subscribe our YouTube channel, OperatorFix. So on that note, have a wonderful, wonderful day ahead, and let's meet up in next video. There we'll continue with the feature. Thanks a lot.